Welcome, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And I'm going to ask Sue if she'll do roll call, please.
Allie Jarvis. Here. Kim Winter.
Here.
Andrea Fick.
Here.
Chuck Melkey.
Here.
Jessica Lenave.
Here.
Jack Sayer.
Here.
Carrie Germain.
Here.
All here.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and my fellow board members. We do have now the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would please join me. And I'm going to ask our guests, the Madrigals, to lead us in that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So as I mentioned, we are being joined this evening by the Madrigals, and this is a very special treat. I want to thank them publicly because Mr. Bishop is right there. Thank you, Mr. Bishop, for providing the leadership for these students and for the students. They entertained all of the 21 school districts at the County Association, School Board County Association meeting last week, and they did an exceptional job. We promised we wouldn't embarrass them, but I think we were the ones to jump up at the end and applaud. So thank you again. You were wonderful, and we are so grateful that you're here tonight, Mr. Bishop.
Tradition, and when I thought about not doing that, I just thought better and catered my senses and so we will actually line up across this way and perform for the school board. This is different from what you guys saw last time. We actually have karaoke that actually is a big part of it. Karaoke, that's on my head. Yeah, I don't know. Where's karaoke?
Let me out of here!
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your talent. And Mr. Bishop, one more shameless plug. What time is the concert next week on Thursday?
7 o'clock. It's always 7, choir, band.
Carrie, may I make a comment?
Sure.
If I may make a couple of comments, because you did a phenomenal job, as Mrs. Germain said, up at the County School Board Association meeting, or dinner. I would like the public to know that when I went downstairs and asked about how, if there's anything you'd like for me to say when I introduced you, one of the things that all of the students said was that Mr. Bishop was doing a great job, and they were really glad to have him. So I know that you are subbing in long-term, and so thank you so much for all that you're doing with our district, all that you are doing. And I will tell you that I received emails from other district representatives that were there that said you did a phenomenal job and would like for me to pass that on to you. So not only did we think you were awesome, others did too. So thanks again.
So the challenge is on to the other districts. You did. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks, everybody. Good luck at your concert. Again, that is Thursday, October 14th. December, geez. Yeah, we missed it. December 14th at 7 p.m. And I heard a plug for the band concert on the 12th. Is the same time? 7 o'clock. Okay.
And those
All right.
and supportive behind-the-scenes parents that go to all the concerts. Thank you.
Okay. And we wish you all happy holidays and enjoy your break. Happy holidays. All right. Yes, you will. All right, that was amazing. Thank you again. Okay, now we'll move on to public comment that is specific to items that are on our agenda this evening. Does anyone have any of those items they'd like to comment on? And if so, please step forward to the podium, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay, not seeing anyone come forward. We will move on to the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Jack?
Support.
Jessica? Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Sue, can you do roll call, please?
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Holly Jarvis,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica LaNave,
Yes.
Kim Winter,
Yes.
Andrea Fick. Yes. 7 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now I'm going to turn it over to Rod so he can give us his superintendent report.
Thank you. So as we know, we are close to break with all of these holiday activities happening. Thank you to the Madrigals. What an amazing group of voices there and a great group of leaders as well. Our last day of school is Friday the 15th, and we return from break on Wednesday, January 3rd. I hope that all of our families, our staff, and our students enjoy the break because it is a well-deserved break for all the hard work this fall and winter. We had our student roundtable on November 13th. Just want to say thank you to Reese, to our students who attended the roundtable and shared their opinions, to the high school staff who came out and took some of those opinions to our Board of Education for participating, engaging. Those are always great conversations, and we appreciate you putting that together. Speaking of Reese, she is going to be our first guest on the Dragon Nation podcast. We're going to talk to her about the roundtable. We're going to talk to her about being a representative for students on the board, and we're going to talk to her about student life. Once we get that put together, we hope to have that out before the end of vacation, so sometime next week. And that'll be episode number 3. We've been talking about this book study a lot, and we'll talk about it later tonight. I just wanted to share an example. As you know, 2 other groups are talking about the very same book. So if you want to take one and pass it down, I'm just going to give a little shout out to Sue Gould, Julie McDonald, and Nikki Fry, who are specialists in our office. They were in charge of this 3rd section, an open mindset. And this is the neat little piece they put together. There were 3 main things, and we'll talk about this later. Meeting new people, trying new things, challenging your beliefs, and they really pulled together the 3 types of conversations. But then they made us do activities too. We had to find out all these things that people had never told anyone else about themselves. We had to try all of these candies from different countries, and so they really took us to a new level, just trying to expose an open mindset to us, and I thought it was an amazing job, and I thought I'd give them a little kudos before we head into our conversation tonight. So thank you to Sue, Julie, and Nikki. And the pressure's on whatever principal has to do it tomorrow, because that group did a phenomenal job. I do have a legislative update. I'll pass these down as well. And these are just the ones that have now been signed into law. So they combined Senate Bill 395, House Bill 395, and House Bill 396, which is now PA 224 of 2023. And this is all over teacher and administrative performance evaluation. So it did repeal the component of merit pay. It did repeal the parent notification if you had a minimally effective teacher for your student. It did lower student growth from 40% to 20%, and it took the ratings from 4 ratings to 3. The 3 ratings are now effective, developing, and needing support. The second one was Senate Bill 169, which is now PA 236 of 2023, and this is that a public employer will share personal information of a new employee, including personal email, address, phone, wages, and other information with the union bargaining unit. So the district now must share public information with the union about its employees. House Bill 5021 is now PA 250 of 2023, and this amends the Public School Employees Retirement Act. So the retirement has changed through the years. We went from one plan to two plans to multiple plans. And what this is basically doing is if a new employee does not choose which pension plan within the first 75 days, they have set it to the pension hybrid plan as the default. Up to this point, if a new employee did not choose a retirement plan within 75 days, the default was a 401k. So it has just basically changed which program is the default program, and that is now the pension hybrid plan. Obviously, employees can choose the 401k if they so choose to. The legislature has adjourned on November 9th, was the last session. So our 90 days of wait for the bills to take impact on those that were not given immediate effect takes place from that November date, which means sometime in February, all of those laws that didn't get immediate impact will become in effect. They also adjourned early because two state representatives won their mayoral elections, and so they are now going to become mayors, which puts the House at 54, and I'm assuming that at some point there will be an election. We don't know what kind of activity is going to happen until they run those special elections, but we will find out. Questions on legislative update?
I just have one thing. I think that here, when we were talking about Senate Bill 169, DA 236, and then we recapped, you said they now must share public information, and just so the public knows that is not public information, it's personal information, so we will not have that information.
Right. It's what they would call like information you could find in an index or something. So it's personal information that can be public, but we are sharing it. We have to now share it with the union.
Any other questions or comments for Rod? Thanks for doing this, Rod. I think this is really helpful. I appreciate not having to go out and look every single bill up and read it, but I do appreciate you doing this. All right, and Sue and group, I just want to
Oh, yeah.
thank you so much. This is great, the summary, and did you bring, especially for Chuck, did you bring candy for him to try out?
Not today.
No, maybe in the future?
Right.
Right, Chuck, wouldn't that be fun?
I don't know, it
Okay.
was pretty different candy, so.
Yeah, I think some of it was thrown away. It was so yummy.
Oh, okay. That means you guys all ate it, right? You
No,
never got any-
I mean, I had an open mindset, but I only enjoyed 2 of the samples, to be honest. Couple of other items. Troon has finally released a mid-year pack. We have that now, so we can go over it. It is based on all of these new laws that have been going into effect over the last year, and so what's going to happen is we'll do our normal process. Jack will go through them at policy. We'll do a read and a first and a second, and then an adoption. They'll go into policy, and they'll sit next to the old ones, and then on July 1, the old ones come out, and they go into effect on July 1. So we'll discuss that at our next policy meeting. Speaking of the Genesee County Association of School Board Members, Carrie was mentioned in Frankenmuth for her 16 years of service as a Swartz Creek Community Schools board member. So just want to say congratulations and thank you to Carrie for your positivity, compassion, and leadership over the last 16 years.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure and honor, and I was surprised. You did a good job surprising me on that one, but thank you. It was nice. It's nice to see all the folks. There was a board member that had 24 years of service, and that's always pretty astounding to me because that's a good portion of your life that you've dedicated to school district service. So we're not teachers and we're not administrators, but we are still committed to the students, so thank you for that. Anything else?
Two more things. Holiday dinner tomorrow for the board, 6 o'clock, Italia Gardens, and my self-evaluation. I did email it to you, but I thought I'd bring a hard copy just in case. And so if you need any of the other original things that came from Collins and Blaha, like the original rubric or any of his presentations, Sue and I still have those. Basically what I went through is the 6 rubric areas, put the rubrics in there, and then a page of evidence, and then the rubrics, and then a page of evidence. This is my self-evaluation, so I will be discussing all of that next week when we go into close, but as you requested to have this a week ahead of time, this is what I will be going over.
Thanks, Ron. And just as a reminder for everybody, in preparation for the evaluation next week, and Rod has requested to go into closed session, which is the norm, you have those forms. If you need one, let us know that we can get it to you. But fill out your own form, your own assessment based on Rod's self-evaluation, and you can keep your own. We had talked about whether I was going to pool of the information or you could keep your own. Please keep your own. And then as we go through the process of discussing it, you can give your input with the goal of having some consensus at the end of that conversation. And so if anybody has any questions, if you can either ask now or you can reach out to me during the week and I can answer any questions you have. But we just wanted to clarify that. Good? Okay. Any questions for Rod before we move on? Thank you, Rod. Appreciate that. Okay. Next, we have our illustrious student board representative, Reese. Could you please share with us?
I hope everyone's having a great night tonight. Feel truly honored to be on the podcast. I'm super excited, a bit nervous, I won't lie, but I'll be the first and hopefully the best. So I'm going to start off with the high school. So last night, the boys varsity basketball team won by 2 points against Clio, which was such a fun game to watch. And if you were there, you seen the insane half-court shot, which was crazy. Choir and band have concerts next week, as we all know, and they're starting rehearsals for their senior showcase, which is entirely student-directed and organized. Student council has their Stuff the Bus event, and they raised $187, which equals to 1,122 meals for their local food bank, in addition to all the food they have donated, so it was a great success. Student council has their also state conference coming up February 24th through the 26th in Grand Rapids. 15 students will be attending this conference, and it promotes our students getting involved with student council and student-ran events. At the middle school, administration has been working on their wellness room with a new upcoming remodel, which is very exciting. Their student store is up and running, and students are buying items, as well as students purchasing pizza parties, movies with Mr. Kaplan, and one student even purchased the chance to do a morning announcement on the PA. The elementary schools have been starting up their holiday events with their Santa's workshop, which they can purchase gifts for their family and friends, which I know when I was in elementary, I loved it. The Morris and Elms Blueberry Group volunteered at the Eastern Michigan Food Bank this past Saturday with their families. The students packed 12,300 pounds of food, and they will feed 42,000 people, which is so great. The Blueberries will also be caroling on Thursday, December 7th at the Cortland Center. And Elms Road leadership team is up and running, and their elections last week for board officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And the mission of this group is to school improvement and for staff and students at Elms Road. I would like to give a couple of shout outs to Ashley Sharkey, Mr. Kaplan, Miss Damon, and Miss Hunt, who have been giving me information that I get to share with all you guys. So without them, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you. And lastly, thank you to all the board members and staff who attended the roundtables. I thought it went super well, and I loved seeing how students interacted with staff, as well as all the beneficial information that we gained. So thank you to you guys for coming. And that's it.
Thank you, Reese, and thanks for all you do and continuing to give us updates. We appreciate it. Any questions for Reese? All right. Okay, moving on, we do have one informational item in your packet for non-certified staff employment. And then let's move on to the board's subcommittee reports. We have several. I'll start with academic achievement. We met last Tuesday. We had one topic on the agenda, which was very interesting. Kim was there also joining us. And it was talking about 23G grant dollars and how we have and will spend that money on targeted tutoring interventions. Jim and Kevin gave a great overview, great slide deck, and we're hoping they would come to us in the future and do something similar, talking about how that grant is expected to be spent to address post-pandemic learning loss, and areas where it can be used are unfinished learning, getting students up to their grade level academic standards, provide additional academic assistance for those students at risk of falling behind their peers, and then helping high school students prepare for post-secondary education. It is very specific. It has requirements for posting information on our transparency page. It also allows for districts to use the money for tutoring, as we have done in the past, during the school year, and expanded learning time, which can be defined as also the summer school programs. So the recommendation, they did share with us the details, which are listed in your report, those different elements or components of the grant, how it's used, and those are listed here. So they're very specific. It doesn't mean who is the program chair or program manager, for example, but it does say that there has to be a program manager, and then facilitators and the tutors. The support plan for that has to also be entered into the MyKIP platform. And for right now, the dollars that we will be receiving would support 4 semesters of targeted tutoring for 200 students beginning in January of 2024 through December of 2025. And if it's available, those dollars would also be allowable to offset the cost of the Swartz Creek summer camp or school. So that was basically, did I miss anything, Kim? I know I just want to give you credit. You had a really good job, and I know Tony's here. But the recommendation was that if there was targeted tutoring, or the question, I guess, would it be possible at some point, and we don't need an answer right now, Tony, but to provide some kind of a snack for the students that might have to stay after school or choose to stay after school to be part of that program. So I thought that was a great suggestion as part of that conversation. I just wanted to give you that credit. And that was pretty much all there was. Did I miss anything, Jim?
Very thorough.
Thank you, thank you. But we did think that this was something that would be worthwhile for the entire board to see at a future board meeting when they're ready to come back and give us additional details, because this is a program that has benefited our students and given opportunities to our staff, and I think we're really fortunate to have access to these dollars again. So we asked if at some point they would come and give this to our entire board, and that is all. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to, we didn't have policy, so Jessica, you're the next one. Finance.
Thank you. We met on November 27th at the administration building. I arrived late, and Carrie Germain and Chuck Melky were in attendance, along with Rod Heatherton, Jim Kitchen, Jamie Cowan, R.C. Hunt, Travis Smith, and Mr. Pobosic from the public. They began the meeting at 2 p.m., and we ended and transitioned at 3:03. Beginning in the minutes, our cash and investment summary as of October 31st is our general fund is $6,859,819.57. Our sinking fund, $2,638,274.16. Food service, $562,897.72. Student activity fund, $333,405.64. Debt service, $1,193,106.83. Our capital project fund, $2,890,673.64. Our total cash and investments, $14,478,177.56. The check register review, November was not available at the time of the meeting because we met at the end of November, but October's was reviewed at the time of the meeting. Jamie Cowan walked through the general fund and provided details of what will be included in the budget revision. Starting in October, the food service statement of revenues and expenses was added and reviewed, and the plan is to add all funds all over time. The next agenda item were grants. We discussed that the GSRP allocation has been given. We will receive 116 slots. We received a youth enterprise entrepreneurship award through the GISD and a FAFSA grant, and we also discussed the 97 grant. The next item was a camera request discussion. That was part of the 97 grant, 48 cameras, oh my, DVRs, I know, I looked at it 4 times and couldn't say it. DVR, can't put letters together, how do I spell? Old cameras will be used elsewhere in the district. The next agenda item was the annual disclosure report, which was shared, a completed annual report was shared. Next was a PA 106 insurance bidding. We will use SAG to create the bid. That will be a cost of $4,000 to the district. And the next agenda item was the architect RFP process that was discussed regarding the 2024 bond, which will be discussed at tonight's meeting. The next item was public comment. There were no public comments, there were no committee comments, and we transitioned to operations at 3:03 when we ended. I didn't have a date for the next meeting, do you?
December 27th.
December 27th. Thank you, 2 p.m.
No.
No.
No. So our first meeting in January, of course, is the organizational meeting. And at the organizational meeting, we will set the entire calendar for the year, both the regular meetings, the workshops, and the subcommittee meetings. So we'll have a couple of proposed calendars based on the way it was laid out this year. So it'll be one of those things where we'll probably decide and then turn around and have it within a week or two of that moment. So it's just organization in that first meeting.
And what date is that?
That is the 10th.
January 10th.
Yep, Wednesday the 10th.
That's the next board meeting.
And we'll decide all of the dates at that point.
So Billy,
That's okay with me, but I thought Dave Lurie was coming back to give us an update before the end of the year, so we can have something for the board. Or am I mistaken on that?
I think you'll have something in January. The only other meeting we have is my evaluation next week.
Okay.
Is it possible, Sue, for you to send us like a pre-count, like before that meeting, send us? It pretty much goes by what we did last year. So if you take your calendar, I can send you, yes.
Just to
It has to
compare
be-
dates, maybe.
It has to be approved and voted on,
Right.
but the dates pretty much line up with last year. So
To a Wednesday, the closest Wednesday.
if it was
right?
like the 23rd last year, it'll be the 22nd this year.
Okay. Just saying we could
Same
look it
with-
over just to mentally like.
Absolutely.
think
I
about
mean,
it.
and remember, you also have elections of who's president, vice president, all
Right.
that, and you have subcommittee leaders. So if leaders change hands, a
Right.
committee could go from 4 o'clock till 7 a.m. And so while it does in general follow what we've done,
Right.
there could be a lot of different changes just depending on who's the leader of the subcommittee.
Seeing it for the first time in a meeting, though, maybe wrapping our heads around like, oh, I've got something, graduation, Jessica's got a graduate this year, right? Like, maybe I'm just saying so we can pre-look ahead if there's anything we have going on in our lives, we could say, know it in advance, maybe. Be prepared. I guess I didn't
Yeah,
feel
we
as
can,
prepared
we'll
last
we'll
time,
rough
but-
draft a couple of versions and then send it
Perfect.
out.
Just out of curiosity, Rod, why don't we do it on December 13th instead of waiting until January 10th and losing some meetings?
January 10th is always the organizational meeting, yeah. The only thing we do at the last meeting of the year is the eval.
Evaluation.
I have some
Do
questions.
we have to follow that? Is that the way it always goes? I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, go ahead. I'm good, thank you.
You sure you're good? Okay. I have just some questions. You mentioned the cameras, so maybe you'll have information, or Travis will. I was looking through the proposal. Does each camera require its own channel in the network? Like, we're buying, in the proposal, 50 enterprise camera channels for 10,000. So each camera requires its own channel?
Requires a license, even multi-head. So the nice thing about the multi-head cameras is it's 3 or 4 cameras in one, but it's only one license.
Okay.
It's a one-time license for that camera.
Okay. And then because it's 48 cameras and a digital video recorder, is the digital video recorder, the one I have on here, the one from Avigilon Video? Vigilon.
The one on there, we're used it to one DVR
Mhm.
for this proposal.
Okay.
Looking at another system, just maybe for the maintenance buildings and such, but so I reduced that one was a Vigilon, it's a DVR 96 terabytes, that's for the bulk of the biggest purchase.
Okay. Okay, that cleared it up. Thank you.
With all of that said, I would like to move that you accept my report as submitted.
Make a motion that we accept Jessica's report as stated by her.
Okay, moved and
Support.
supported.
I'll support.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, can you do roll call, please?
Kim Winter? Yes. Andrea Fick? Yes. Chuck Melkey?
Yes.
Carrie Germain?
Yes.
Holly Jarvis?
Yes.
Jack Sayer?
Yes.
Jessica Lenee?
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes. And I think we can hand it off to Chuck, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Jessica?
I have a boring report.
Thank you.
Okay. So, we transitioned and we just officially started the, building operations site meeting at 3:07 PM. It was conducted at the administration building. Present was myself, the chair, Jamie Cohen, our finance director, trustee Jessica Lenave, Rod Hetherington, our superintendent, President Carrie Germain, RC, our building supervisor, assistant superintendent Jim Kitchen, Dave Lurvy, the coordinator for the Mary Crapel site, and from the public was John Pekosik. There was only one item on the agenda, and that was the Mary Crapel update. There was comprehensive discussion on layout and options for dugouts, concession stands, public seating, walkways, and fencing, along with other amenities for this site plan. Dave Lurvy gave the operations board many suggested changes and options. We discussed them in detail, start times for the project, setting up a phase 1 and a phase 2 due to financial constraints. Rough sketches and layouts were provided, and we hope to have a final layout with start times on January 1st, which, that's what I thought he said. That's why I was confused about how we're going to get that in. So maybe by the second meeting in January. And have it laid out for phase 1 and phase 2. And we were going to have some projected start times for the bids going out so we could obtain vendors for the spring. And more input will be needed by the subcommittee in detail, along with general board members. Hopefully, anybody can attend the next building and site is encouraged to attend so they can get their input into the site plan. Public comment. John Poposik asked about landscaping and greenery around the complex and what type of fencing would be used. Committee comment was regulated mostly to Crapel Field and chimney swift dwellings, which I brought up, and the location and size of the chimney swifts and how many chimneys we actually needed and how they would be incorporated. And other than that, we adjourned and at 4:09 PM. And I have the wrong date on here. I thought the next date would be December 27th. But it's not. It's not to be determined after our board structural meeting in January.
Thank you, Chuck.
And I have a copy of the sketch. I don't know if Rod, I don't think Rod, it's just a rough draft. Dave Lurvy gave us. If anybody would like to see it now, I'll pass it down, or, after the meeting, you're more than welcome to look at it and give us your input so we know what we want to do. I don't know if that was sent out to all the board members. I don't think it was.
I have an extra hard copy in my office too, so.
Okay. I brought mine, so Andrea, I don't know who was there. Andrea wasn't there, and Holly and Kim and John. Usually it's just me and Jessica, and Carrie was nice enough to come in and give her input, so we need a lot of input for it, so you guys let me know or let Jessica or Carrie know so we can add it on or go or subtract. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
And any questions for Chuck? No? If you get a chance, look at the layout. It's really very interesting, complex, actually,
Yeah.
and pretty. So I'll pass my copy down, or you can
Oh, you have a
pass it.
copy too? Good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Carrie.
If you want to look at it, too. All right, thank you, everybody. Okay. Next, we have a presentation. Under board discussion items, we have our presentation on food service.
Yes, we're excited to have Mr. Delgado come forward, and he's going to give his annual food services presentation. Tony?
Hello, how's everybody doing? I'm doing very well. So, so far it's been a pretty good year with free meals for all. We've had a lot of participation, been doing very well so far. So, all right. Just as a reminder, I'm part of Chartwells. Chartwells has a bunch of school districts all across the nation. It gives us a lot of bargaining power when it comes to our purchasing, but it gives us a big support system as well to help us with compliance, building menus, different ideas, and just like tried and true things from other districts that could help out just so we don't have to kind of fly blind into things. We have Justin Hawkins, which is our Regional Director of Operations. Amy Larson, who is my direct report, is my District Manager. Aaron Mason, the Regional Executive Chef. Then there's me, and then Brett Jacobs, who is our Director of Dining Services. Oops. She is our Executive Chef. All of us work in just trying to make everything as perfect as possible, even though she's not on there, but I had to mention Susan. Susie is instrumental, so I had to mention her in here, and she wouldn't let me put a picture of her on there. So over the summer, well, actually last year, we had a pilot program for smoothies that we tried out at the high school. Went very well. We started passing it along to, started passing them over to the middle school. They did very well with it. So this year we ended up getting the same equipment that they had at the high school, so that way we could make them there. Kids in the middle school absolutely love them. But when their information about that got out, I got invited to the annual conference for the School Nutrition Association in Denver, Colorado. I did a presentation about our smoothie program, and if you want to go ahead and play that. This is basically just about the conference, but it is a massive event.
If you've never been to an ANC, you need to get here. ANC is going to make you a better professional. It's going to make you more knowledgeable in your field, and it's going to develop relationships that you need to be your best.
ANC was amazing this year with all of the class sessions, education pieces. This exhibit show, amazing. It literally does take you 2 days to get through so that you can actually speak to everyone, talk about the new products, and then arrange for them to come and meet you.
My favorite thing about the conference was the networking of people and seeing old friends from back in the day I haven't seen in such a long time.
My main takeaway is that the work that we do in school food can't be done alone.
So there was just a ridiculous, well, there was 6,000 plus school professionals, 300 plus exhibits and vendors, and then education session. So you could basically pick your itinerary of what you were going to do, kind of cater it to what you were interested in. So I had a slew of classes that I went to every day, just learning different stuff. One of the main things that I really focused on was hydroponic gardening and how we could possibly bring it into our school district, which would be great to incorporate as part of the curriculum. But in the same sense, you could grow your own lettuce, microgreens, things like that you could use in your schools, and it just a great program altogether. So that's something that I've been looking into. So on the left, that was the presentation room that I was in, just going over, mainly answering questions about the equipment, the benefits, whether or not the kids actually like it, which it's smoothies. They're fairly easy, really good for breakfast time. And then a lot of people had questions about the equipment, like the immersion blender. Even though we got that just for the smoothies, we've used it for so many other things. And now we've even got a smaller one that we're getting just so we can do smaller batches of things. On the right was the main theater where everybody came to, and as you can see, it was a very, very big event. Very interesting, very cool, and very warm out there. It was nice. So, and at the end of it, I was crowned the king of French fries. So, over the last couple of years, I have tried to focus on 3 main goals: improving our food quality and the variety and the presentation. I've tried to work on staffing, getting the right people, making sure that we have the right cultures in our building, learning empowerment and education, training our cook managers on how to actually be managers and how to be leaders in their buildings, and then facilities, working on updating kitchens, cafeterias, with a focus on not just getting things fixed right now, but what are we going to be doing in the future to better our program. So this year we focused on food. Global Eats was one of the main things that we did. So we started incorporating different recipes from around the world, from China, Mexico, Italy, and India. Just trying to bring different styles of food and making it different from what we had when we were kids, where I had a very greasy pizza and some vending machines. Now they have just a variety of foods, and they also have their fallbacks, the chicken nuggets and pizza and things that they're going to like, but we have opened their eyes to some of the things that they didn't know that they were going to like. So obviously we've been upgrading our fruits and vegetables. We have to have those, but these are some of the meals that we've had throughout the school year, and I felt like a teen taking Instagram pictures of my meal before I ate them, because these were all meals that I ate, all that came from our high school kitchen, and this one was from this Monday where we just started India, and that was tikka masala. And it's all actually going over very well. And I had to get our cooks into the mindset of like, yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's not something that you would think of, but we have to open it up to the kids and see if it's something that they might like. But we can't just slop it on a plate. We have to focus on the presentation, garnish, contrasting colors. They're consumers just like anybody else, so we have to make sure that if they're walking up, they're looking at it and like, wow, what is that? And it's been working very well. So, and moving past the food, we've been working on updating our staff. We have all of our cook managers ServSafe certified, and then we're going to be working on at least the second in line, just to make sure that there's always somebody in that kitchen that is ServSafe certified. On top of that, all of our staff was Fair Check certified last year. That is about up, and we're going to redo that. So Fair Check it's an enhanced training and review program in food handling and safety practices, with a focus on allergens, making sure that our staff is as knowledgeable as possible about food allergens and how they can protect the children from cross-contamination or cross-contact, just making sure that we're being as safe as possible with all the food that we're putting out. We've also put a big focus on facilities, as I mentioned. So some of the things that we have completed: high school got new stacked pizza ovens, middle school got 2 sandwich sliders, which drastically helped their participation with especially lunch. Deke, Moorish, and Cyring all got new ovens. Gaines got a new freezer. Cyring kitchen was repainted. Cyring Deke got new tables that finally came in. It was pushed back. And then the other elementary schools got new wheels for their tables. They weren't in bad shape yet, but we did want to make sure that they were rolling around correctly. In progress, LDLC and Moorish will be getting new milk coolers to accommodate the increase in participation. We're going through more milk, we have more kids, and the old style milk coolers that we have just don't fit enough, and we just don't have the space. So we have to think upwards. We're going with taller ones that will fit a lot more. Middle school will be getting a service window installed over, I believe it's Christmas break. And essentially what it's like, we took all of the a la carte items and we moved it into a side station. That way we could speed up the lines. We could have the kids that were getting their meals get through faster, the kids that were just going to get snacks off to the side. Well, that worked really well, and we're going to make it kind of like a solid station that they go to. So we're going to open up the wall, we're going to build in a cooler into it, we're going to put a window in there, and then I'm going to make it into basically the inside Dragon Diner. I'm going to have it repainted with the bus on there, and then the window is basically like a food truck window. So it'll have a little bit of theme to it, but it'll be pretty cool when it's done. I'm excited about that one. We have coating for awning for the a la carte store at the high school. And then I'm working on quoting Elm's cafeteria repaint, and then grease trap for Elm's. So with Michigan School Meals, it has done very well. So even though last year we had community eligibility program, that got all of the elementary schools free meals. But these are the 2-month comparisons from October, November of last year to October, November of this year. And as you can see, almost every single school is up in every single area. The only one that's a little bit, or that's spot on, is Gaines lunch. They're exactly the same. But as you can see, everybody is up in breakfast. Absolutely everybody. And Moorish has been absolutely killing it when it comes to lunch, or breakfast. And then as far as lunch, I believe middle school had the highest increase. One of the reasons of that is the slider, like the sandwich slider that we had. It's a heated, like a heated cabinet, but you load it from the back, and that's where we put our chicken nuggets, hamburgers, and the kids can come by, they grab that, and the good thing about that is, one, they like those things, but two, each individual one is a meal in itself. It's got a grain, it's got a meat, and it's got a vegetable. So they can come grab that, go cash out immediately. But it provides 2 to 3 more options every single day for all the kids. So that's why you can see like such a drastic increase from the middle school, where high school, middle school, you'd think that they would be about the same increase. That contributed to that portion of it. And then looking towards the future. So right now, we don't know, like Michigan School Meals is great for this year, and we're definitely investing back into the schools. If it's something that they continue to do, then honestly, I want to think about what we can actually do big picture wise. They've had talks about continuing universal meals for kids, but right now it's just a discussion. But if it's something where they do lock that in, then that's where, like with those increased meal participation, we can really look into bigger projects, like getting new serving lines for the elementaries that are very, very dated, and most of which don't have any kind of cold holding. One of the biggest things that is needed is a walk-in cooler from Moorish. They have such high participation in their school. They have so many kids coming through that it just makes sense, because we can only fit so many 2-door, 3-door coolers in that kitchen before it's just entirely packed. So that's something that we would definitely want to look into. Middle school kitchen serving area. Right now, it's just 2 simple lines, but we could open it up a little bit more. We could create certain areas where we could introduce new foods and just have a better flow to that area, where it's not just going through getting a tray. They could actually go and look and pick their meals, or at least have some room to move around a little bit. And then the same with the high school. We have what they've called the Tiki Hut, which is just outside. But if we could open that up and add a little bit more space to our kitchen, the size of the kitchen in the high school is in no way proportionate to the amount of kids that they serve. So if we could open that up and get some more prep area for the cooks, that would be absolutely fabulous. Because right now they've got basically 2 tables that they can really work on before they have to start going out into the actual serving area and doing prep out there. So, and again, these are just ideas of things that we could invest into it, but it's dependent on what the future holds. So we have to wait and see exactly where Michigan goes with it. But as far as it is right now, it's seems like it's a pretty good success because we just basically, we went from partial CEP district to full CEP. So essentially, basically, that says that this group of schools can get federal reimbursement for a percentage of the meals that they get. So for all of the elementary schools, we get about 88% reimbursement from the federal government, and then the remainder is going to be reimbursed from the state of Michigan. And then for the high school, middle school, the reason that they weren't part of CEP before is because they only get about, I think it was like 62% federal reimbursement, and Michigan fills in the gap of that. That's the 62%. If Michigan didn't fill in the gap, that means that we would have to fill in the gap, and that would put us in a deficit. So it just wasn't feasible to do it. But now that they're doing that, it opens up a lot of different things. So we're getting a higher reimbursement rate for all of the meals that we serve than the amount that we were charging the kids, and we're getting a higher participation throughout the entire district. Even the schools that had free meals last year have more meals served this year. So it's definitely on track, and a lot of other schools are saying the same things, that they're having increased participation because of the free meals, and that's increasing their revenue, which they can reinvest back into their schools. So, but those are the main things that I would like to look for. But besides that, if you guys would like to ask some questions.
Questions for Tony? Tony, I think you addressed the allergies issue. How do we know that students have allergies before they get in line?
So,
and so that you're being proactive and that there isn't any cross-contamination if it's something that's serious enough that it could be adverse to their health.
well, we try to send that out. Like a lot of the schools reach out, or if a kid transfers from one school to the other, they should have a special dietary needs form on file. And as long as nothing's changed, that can follow the child around. But whenever somebody talks about an allergy, we make sure that the head cook knows, the office knows, I know, and the school nurse knows. We have those forms filled out, we send it to them, and then they have a list of all those meals, what the specific needs are. We make sure that we get things that complement what their needs are, like if they need, or like we have a list of different like things with no soy, no gluten, things that come at a higher cost, but we make sure that our schools have access to whatever they need for that. But they have a running list for each one. And if somebody says that they have an allergy, but we don't have anything on file, we accommodate that allergy, and then I reach out to the parents to make sure that we can get something filled out from a physician, so that way we're in compliance. Because in order for us to fully modify a meal, then we have to make sure that we have that paperwork on file, and I want to make sure that everybody is aware, well, at least within our managers and myself, well, like the food service office and the nurse, so that way everybody's prepared for it.
So if somebody with celiac, for example, and cross-contamination could be very adverse to them.
No, and that's...
So are those students accommodated, like going down before everyone else or early in the process, or
honestly, haven't had any issues with that so far, where we haven't had like a severe celiac necessity. We do have certain things that we prep ahead of time, so that way there isn't like cross contact with it. So we'll make any kind of allergen meals ahead, so that way they're made on their freshly sanitized cutting boards with the utensils, and then after those are done, then we'll go into the rest of the meals. Brett Jacobs, our executive chef, she is amazing when it comes to allergens. She has food allergies herself, so she understands the necessity of it, and she's really good about sourcing products, trying to find things that fits in, like check the boxes, but aren't just, just something, like there's a flavor, or like we can still make good food for the kids. But she's doing a heck of a job with that.
Great. What about the Dragon Diner? I think that's adorable that you're going to do that. So how is the Dragon Diner doing? And do we have plans for it going forward through this summer?
Well, I would have liked to use it this past summer, but we had distribution. They basically, we didn't have funding to do any kind of like food distribution, and then it came down to the last minute where they approved it. So it was just a scramble to try to get everything set. Any kind of feeding program, we didn't have time to get the staff together and make it happen because it was announced just before it was allowed to do. So if we can do a distribution, that would be great, but we can, next year we're not banking on that. We're looking to possibly do meals, like meals on the go where we set up at a certain location. This year I want to reach out to specific locations and just get approval from them ahead of time, making sure that we can have kind of a rotation too, so we're not just at one spot. But that and then special events, like I know we used it for the community resource night, which was huge. And then I ended up doing smoothie samples there as well, which the parents, I loved it because like one parent's like, oh my God, you have these in school? Like, no.
I was going to ask you if you shared samples at that conference, but then you said there were 6,000 people, and you had been doing that all day long.
Yeah, and I don't think I can take a immersion blender as a carry-on.
They are very good. If anybody hasn't had one of those smoothies, they're really, really good.
We just had we had one the other day, and it was like pineapple and cardamom, and it was just different flavor. And we were supposed to use regular yogurt, but we ended up using strawberry, and it created a good flavor.
Good.
I was very impressed.
All right. Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
The, Travis, back up to his last page there that he had. If you still have it up, if you don't, Travis is
I can answer the question, though. Which one?
Okay, well, you had 4 items that you wanted to do. They were all pretty large items. Have you did a cost analysis on that, what it'll cost?
Not yet. Those, right now I've been focusing on the things that we can get. Those ones, I've been waiting for word that they're going to continue, because right now the budget only allows it for 1 year. For the Michigan school meals. I'm not saying that we can't do a big item, but if we're going to do anything, I would say I'd pick from one of the top 2, either the serving lines or the walk-in cooler from Moorish. But if it does go free meals for all, if they do universal meals like continued, then that would definitely open it up. And then I would, like the second they announce that, then I would get some plans together.
Well, you should probably get some together and submit it to the finance and operations so we can take a look at it and see if there's any money to even do it. There's no sense in, going against the wind, but we have to keep a certain fund balance in there, keep ourselves solvent. I'm not opposed to any of those projects that you would like. I just want to make sure that the board understands that we can come up with the money. Jessica, I'm sure you agree with this. That, so we can start planning ahead instead of planning backwards. So, and you're right. I know if the state next year says, hey, we're going to give you more free meals and more money, we had a pretty healthy fund balance in food services, but to do all 4 of those projects, I like to see how much they're going to cost us, or at least a rough cost, and then what we have and what we can afford. Thank you.
And that's not like my plan for next year, like those 4, but that's basically just 4 items that I know that definitely would be like
if we need them, Tony, then you need to put them on the board so we can look at ways to come up with constructive ways to finance that stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Number 1, congratulations for being asked to go out there and being innovative with the smoothies. I'm really super glad to hear that. At one point when we were talking about, and you've done, I think, a really great job in focusing on it, and the improvements for food and for staff, and do you do anything, you talked at one point about maybe doing some focus groups, and with the new menu items that you're introducing, are you getting student input, or do you do anything like surveying? How did you like what we had, or what'd you have today, and how was it? I guess what do you do to get that student feedback to know whether or not you're on track or not with something?
So they've been pretty vocal about what they do like, but we are planning to do some sampling tests, basically like pitting 2 meals against each other and having them vote. So we're planning on doing stuff like that. I would have liked to have done it a little bit sooner, but we've just been getting our butts kicked. Just the amount of meals that it kicked up is, like you could see in the graph, so like it increased pretty substantially, and I thought we were gonna like kind of stay around the same with the elementary schools, but man, they jumped right up too. So So basically, we've been trying to get everybody in line, changing up their processes, making sure that they all have the equipment that they need. Like, I've been buying a lot of odds and ends just to, like, getting wedgers for the schools. Yeah, they can use a knife, but we have, like, anything that we can do, if we can afford it right now, I'm buying the little things that can speed it up and make it a little bit faster for them. And then we're going to get into those things like samplings, trying out try 2 different recipes that we haven't done before and have them try out samples and vote for it. We can do smoothie presentations. I know I talked to someone about possibly doing another event where we had Rory, the Lions mascot, come out to the middle school. Looking to try to do something like that again, where we can do a bigger event with one of our vendors. Like that one was with the United Dairy Industry of Michigan. So looking to see if we can get stuff like that just to bring all the kids in. We talked about, Brett and I talked about doing a presentation at some of the elementary schools with vegetables, just trying to introduce new vegetables, new fruits to the kids, just giving them like a little bit of information, letting them ask questions, try out some samples and things. Just think about it, like, you know, new stuff when you're a kid is a little bit scary, and a lot of the kids are well, there's some kids that are timid. They're not going to say anything when they're coming through, but if you make it an event, if you make, you know, something where they can have fun, then they're going to be a bit more inclined to pipe up about it. So.
And then, it may be way off track, but I'm still going to ask, and you don't have to answer it here. I'm just going to put it on your radar because it came up, and I did briefly mention it to Rod. It might be something more for the administration. But do you know, is there any opportunity to use food service dollars, those dollars to potentially, like, there's the personal living class where they are taught how to cook, and whether it's some of the food or updating those kitchens? I'm assuming no, because potentially because it doesn't benefit all the students, and it's not like an actual meal program. But are there any opportunities for collaboration or help there?
Not really with food service funds, because they're pretty specific on how it's paid for. Like, they have approved lists of things that you can get, but other than that, you have to seek approval. But ultimately, food service funds, if you're going to invest, they want to make sure that it goes back into the food service program. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't come and use one of our kitchens or something like that. So, like, if they wanted to, like, do something where the kids come to one of the kitchens and work there, that's something that we could do, but we couldn't invest in equipment for a classroom.
Gotcha. Okay. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You just said something, Jessica, so, and I think you followed up appropriately. So if those students were able to come to the kitchen safely.
Yeah.
And they could learn a recipe.
Yeah.
And they could learn about being the executive chef as maybe a career path in the future and ask questions.
Yeah.
That's something that you could do.
Oh, absolutely. And that's like one of the reasons that I brought on Brett, is because that affords us the possibility of doing things like that, where, you know, she can work with those kitchens, she can work with the kids, she can explain things, she can go over the recipes, because that's one of the biggest things that she does, is go like help them source the things that they need, but helping them like figure out the new recipes that we're trying, how to do it, because, you know, you can read a recipe but that doesn't necessarily, like, it doesn't work in every single scenario. So sometimes you have to modify things. You have to do it a little bit different. And that's what we've been working on this year. But we could show them that type of stuff too. Like, you don't just follow a recipe and then say it's done. You try it. You sample, you make sure. Like, one day early in the year, our rice was undercooked. And one of the cooks was like, well, I followed the recipe. And I'm like, yeah, but did you try the rice? Like, all you have to do is try a little sample of it. Be proud of what you're eating. Like, be proud of the food that you're making. Try it out and make sure that it fits your standards. And I want them to understand, like, if you're making food, make sure it's something that you would actually go and eat, or at least, like, try.
Are you able to share those recipes with families if they wanted them, or like the connections to Wellness in the Creek in the spring? That's a shameless plug.
Yeah, so $10 a recipe.
You could maybe, do it proportionate to a family size recipe. I don't think they want to cook for 300, But could you do that?
Possibly.
If a kids come home and say, hey, I really enjoyed my lunch today or something?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like that would, if anything, that would be flattering.
that's
So
cool.
I wouldn't, like, I would want to help. Like, I don't necessarily believe we're going to get a big influx of people looking for me, like I'm Betty Crocker giving out recipes. But
But if
I
you
would
have
love to
them-
be able to do something like that
Right.
because that's a testament to the food that we're making.
Maybe you
Okay.
could put it in the newsletter,
Yeah, hey, there you
like
go.
a meal of the month.
Rod's
right?
Cooking
Like,
Corner.
Tony's, you should
Good
give Tony the
idea.
credit. Kind of fun.
All right,
I
any
think-
other questions? Go ahead.
I think the board should go, whoever can do it, should go to lunch at one of the schools someday. I'm already
Absolutely.
thinking our next one-on-one needs to be lunch. You guys never feed me.
I always tell you guys, more than welcome to stop out. You don't have to announce yourself because I'm not looking for like a special service or whatever, or like do anything special because you guys are coming. I want you to go and see what we're doing. So you're more than welcome anytime.
So maybe someone will organize that for us.
I saw you sneak in one time.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
all you do and for your team, even the person who didn't want their picture up there. So, but thank you. We really appreciate
Well.
it. And I know our students do. And your graph says it all.
Yeah.
You know, obviously the food is good and they're eating it. So.
And I just got that done because I had to wait, like I wanted 2 sample months of like to get a realistic picture of the increase. So I had to wait till the end of November to get those finalized numbers. And then I'm looking, I'm like, wow. Like it definitely, it's definitely been an interesting couple of months to start off the year, just trying to get everybody on track and be like, all right, like let's reorganize how we're doing stuff. And like, I've had cooks that are saying like, you know, I've been doing this for last like 5 years and it's just not working. I'm like, well, you haven't had these numbers over the last 5 years. So you have to rethink how you're doing things. Like you're not doing anything wrong, but you can't keep on doing the same thing and expect for it to work every single time. So if it's not working, flip it around, switch it. And that's what we're here for. Reach out for help. And if we see we're gonna throw in some 2 cents and try to help out, but it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong. It's you did it so right that we're getting so much food going out that we're just trying to help you.
Good. Well, thank you, Tony.
Well, thank
Maybe
you.
we'll see you at lunch soon.
I hope so.
I
All
have
right,
one.
go
I have
ahead.
a comment. I was not aware that there were smoothies at the high school.
Yeah,
I assume those are not on the free.
they can be. So that's the beauty of the smoothies. Right now, we do sell them a la carte, and they do very well with that. You can have them as, if you add a grain, it can be a reimbursable lunch. If you serve it in for breakfast, then that can be a reimbursable breakfast. Not in itself, you do have to add other items. And because even though it has fruit in it, it's not considered a fruit, so you do have to have a fruit with it. So, but yeah, it's absolutely part of one of the meals.
Okay, so if somebody just wanted to come in there and buy one, like how much would it cost?
$2.
Oh.
Taxable for
Oh,
adults.
that's very reasonable compared to the other ones.
Well, there's kind of a standardized pricing list that we have to go by, that we have to be at like 40% cost, that's set by the Michigan Department of Education. So I have a list of all of my a la carte items, and then the average price has to be, or like the average food cost has to be 40%. So certain things I try to do a little bit lower. If we're trying to get rid of something, I'll price it substantially lower and make sure that everything else kind of buffers it. But yeah, I'm not trying to price gouge the kids, and I want them to get the stuff. So that's the idea, is to give them other options to go with their meals, not to make money off of them. Thank you. My pleasure. I do every day. Well, I will. Well, I'm very sarcastic with them, but I always say thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on, we do have our book study. This is part 3 of our success mindset.
Yes, we are to part 3, which is an open mindset. Don't be afraid of following Sue's group and all the things that they did. But we can start anywhere you want. I've got 3 tabs.
Anybody want to start? I won't call on folks. I'm good. I'll start. I enjoyed the analogy of your brain, being a bucket. And I'm going to get to it so I appropriately talk about it. That you can change the size of your bucket, that being your mind, and how much water it can hold, and not to think of it as, it's full, but there's water in the bucket, and that's new knowledge. And I appreciated if you think your bucket's full, then are you a know-it-all? Everybody can learn something, right? You can always learn something new. You just have to kind of open your mind to it. So I appreciated that. I thought it was kind of a good reminder, and I like just the picture of your mind being a bucket with water in it. Anyone else?
I'm a huge David Goggins fan, so when I was reading through and saw that they used him as an example on 117, talks about in his book, Can't Hurt Me, how he went from this journey of his life to being abused to an uneducated teenager to dropping out of the Air Force. Then he was a 300-pound exterminator. And then he moved into getting in shape. He hit 195 pounds and made the Navy SEALs. And then from the Navy SEALs, he kept going and became an Army Ranger. And then from the Army Ranger, he went into a ultra runner and triathlete. And there was just a lot of good conversation about how he approached his life and why he approached his life the way he did and what he was open to. I was impressed with that, but I love his little screaming videos, so.
But it also showed that by being closed to the recommendations, that he become more of a partner and collaborative with the other SEALs, that he basically lost that opportunity to be in Team 6.
Yeah, it talked about how even though he had opened his mindset to certain things, as he was on the journey, because he was so obsessed with being in shape, he lost the relationship aspect, and he felt he didn't need it, so he wasn't open to it, and then that cost him that extra special group, which what he thought he was doing, he really should have been bonding with his team. So that was a good point. The other one I got is on 142, and it talks about we all have terribly incomplete and distorted perspectives. It says, at first, most people will just remain stuck in their own heads, stubbornly cling to the ideas that their views are the best, that something is wrong with the other people who don't see it their way. But when you repeatedly face the question, how do you know you are not the wrong one? That's when you have to start confronting your own thoughts and beliefs through other people's eyes. And I thought that was kind of a good capture of what it means to have an open mindset.
So I'm just going to ask a kind of a rhetorical question. So who here sitting, and you don't have to raise your hand, thinks they're often right? And if my husband's watching at home, he knows that this individual might think that once in a while. But I appreciated the reminder to say, well, how do I know I'm right? Don't always assume that you're right just because it's something that you have brought forth or it's your thought. So anyway,
Well,
I didn't look around if anybody raised their hands.
I have a confession, though, Carrie. But before I confess, I'd like to say when I took the assessment with this, I scored high on growth mindset. But I'm going to confess that closed was a challenge for me. And I like to think that I'm principled, but I do think it can be dangerous if you're overly closed. But Sue and her team did this activity, let me push this back a little bit, where we had to write on a card something that we believe, a belief statement. And then on the other side, what you think you're right about. On the other side, you write down why you might be wrong. And that was such a challenge, and I would encourage everyone to give that a try. It could be as simple as what they used was, which is better, Christmas or Thanksgiving? And then turn it over, like give your reasons why you think it's the best, and then turn it over, and why might you be wrong in your thinking? And I don't like the idea of being wrong, so I openly confess that. My wife's here, and I'm sure she would agree with that. So.
I also concur with that.
Oh, well, just going along with, like, people not wanting to be wrong, this is back on page 106, but I had underlined this, how the researchers found that when individuals identify strongly with one political point of view and are presented with information supporting the other side, their brains literally shut down. And sometimes I think that happens when we I mean, we've all probably done it. I think your brain might shut down when the other person starts talking and you don't agree with what they're saying or your view is opposing. And I'm probably guilty of that a little bit, thinking, well, now I'm starting to think, well, why might I be, I might not be right, looking at, and I mean, for your brain to literally shut down is in this, they did these MRIs on people, and it was pretty interesting to me.
So Kim, I had similar thoughts to that. But did you think that before you read this? Like, was it so, ooh?
No, I didn't think that before I read this, but I think I have done this in the past. Like, well, they don't know what they're talking about, or something like that. I mean, and I admit that, but I'm gonna have to be better about that.
I had the same thought. It's like, oh, maybe I should be a little more open.
Yeah,
to some thoughts.
Yeah, because I was thinking, well, even if you don't like everything that they're saying, maybe there's some small part of it that you didn't consider or something.
Seek to understand why they are thinking in that vein.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the card with the other idea on the back. Anyone else? Okay.
I'm listening to my car. It's a very, are you listening to it, John? In the car? It's a very tough listen, let me tell you. That's all right. It's a very tough listen, just I'm saying. Go with trying to read it yourself to make your own notes. He's very dry, but I've been listening to it in the car, so I don't have any notes written down.
All right. Anyone else?
So we will look at part 4. I think that is the last part before the conclusion. Oh, no, we got promotion mindset and then outward mindset, so 2 more. The principals will be diving into open mindset tomorrow, so we'll see how they do. And been great conversations. I'll piggyback on what Jim said in relation to what Kim and Carrie just said, which is Jim and I approach lots of many topics from the opposite side, but we will, sharpen iron by combating with each other to try to pull out those points. And I would say there are many topics where both of us have relented and changed our minds on. And so you just kind of have to approach those conversations with an open mind and be ready to take in new information.
I love those situations, and I will challenge them a lot. Like, I'll go to somebody that I know will give me the challenge, because I want that conversation. I want it to be two-sided, not one-sided. Whether it's a friend or it's a colleague, like, I'll go to them because I know they're going to give me the challenge about something. Sometimes you have to look for it.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to know someone's background. You should get to know them better too. Where have they come from? What are their family values and culture, and how did they arrive in this spot? And has that influenced some of the things that they think? I'm still curious how this is applicable to our students and our staff as you guys are going along. And eventually you're going to give us kind of a summary, nice summary like Sue did. I'm not going to put that out there, but that's really nice. Like, how are we using it in the classroom eventually?
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of these things come to a similar point in that classroom, and that's those learning opportunities and whether those opportunities provide openness and growth. Right now, of course, we're concentrating on our leadership groups so that hoping that the trickle-down effect impacts the staff that they work with. Because when your leader has an open mindset and a growth mindset, that resonates with the staff and the building. And of course, everything we do, the purpose is to resonate all the way down to the classroom level.
Good. Well, thank you. Thanks again for bringing this forward. And
Absolutely.
if you haven't had a chance to go through the book, my fellow board members, and I know everybody's busy, this is actually worth listening to if you get a chance to do so, or just pick out key areas and read about things that will interest you. And it won't solve all the world's problems, but I think it will give us greater sensitivity to the folks around us and what we can do together. Thank you again. Moving on, let's go to our board action items, beginning with the approval of our SCEA employment.
Yes, we are excited to bring three candidates today. We'll start off with special ed and have Sean come on up to the podium, and she has a couple of candidates to bring to your attention.
Good evening, everyone.
Sean, the mic's on red.
Does that mean it's not working?
No, Travis says it's good.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. The first individual I'd like to introduce to you is Amy Fox. She has entered into her 23rd year as a speech pathologist. She actually began her career here at Swartz Creek. Unfortunately, the position was no longer needed, so she had to seek employment elsewhere. And in her educational journey working with students, she has been able to work with all ages, from 3 years old all the way to high school. So for tonight, I'd like to introduce her as our candidate to be working with Swartz Creek's 3-year-olds, Little Dragons, our GSRP and Head Start. She would also be working with our speech students at Gaines and assisting with some of our overages that are occurring at our K-2 buildings. She has a big task ahead, but I look forward to welcoming her back at Creek.
Okay.
Just give us a little bit about yourself.
Well,
And tell us.
this is my 23rd year. I am always seeking to learn new information. I'm always seeking to be better, and I'm excited to be back.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
So the others in the audience who have done their homework, and you may have as well, I always ask, what brings you to Swartz Creek? I know you had a small stint here initially, but what brings you back here after some years apart?
I liked it here. It's close to home, but this was my home, my
Good.
first home.
Good.
So I'm excited to be back.
We love to hear that. We do.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
With that, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Support. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, can you do roll call, please?
Holly Jarvis.
Yes.
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Jack Sayer.
Yes.
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
Kim Winter.
Yes.
7 yes. Andrew Fick, sorry. Andrew. Sorry, Andrew.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The other individual I'd like to introduce is Terry Douglas. So now you know what's.
I know, I'm
Okay.
glad she went first because, no.
Terry has 25 years' experience in special education at the secondary level. She actually retired in June and missed so much working with students that when she saw our posting for a middle school resource room position, she applied. And yes, she is one of those that enjoys working with middle schoolers. So I am super excited to have her here in front of you and recommend her tonight for our middle school resource room position.
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to be a part of your community and work and teach your students. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Do you want to tell us anything else about yourself or why you're here in Swartz Creek in front of us? And we're glad to have you here.
First of all, I'm going to tell you why I'm a special education teacher. I'm dyslexic myself. I had to repeat the first grade. I struggled through school. I know what these kids have gone through. There was many teachers that made me feel like crap, and that's why I became a special education teacher. I know what these students have gone through. I know the little tricks that they play. I got to go to the bathroom because they know their turn's coming up. I make my classroom very welcoming, fun. I say we have a party every day. When they walk in my classroom every day and they ask the same question, what are we gonna do today? I run a very structured classroom routines. So when they ask me that, we have a party. We're having a party today, a math party. You're gonna learn, a lot of fun, and you're gonna be a better student when you walk out of here. Swartz Creek, I was working down in Walled Lake, and that was 45-minute drive on a good day, there and back. This is 17 minutes from my house and no traffic lights. And I'm a big back roader, and my car is probably the dirtiest one out there. I can take dirt roads home. So that's why Swartz Creek.
Thank you, and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We ask everybody, because I just want to hear why it is you chose us, because obviously you have other choices, right? And you have experience elsewhere, and bless you for choosing middle school. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, that is crazy.
I have 4 children of my own, and
Yes.
those years
You never
are
know
memorable.
Yeah.
They
You
are
never know what
memorable.
you're gonna get.
Yes, I know. All right,
I have a,
go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I loved your story. That, you know, you had problems as a child, and I mean, I think, and sometimes there's no better person that, you know, to help these kids that has gone through it themselves.
And you know,
I liked your story.
I do tell my students right away that I also have 2 master's degrees. And if you would have asked my parents, like, to predict the future and who would go on and get 2 master's degrees, my brother and sister are both very successful, didn't have to go through college on what they do. My parents' answer would have been, well, it definitely won't be Terry, because I struggled so much. I also do have a son who's extremely ADHD, didn't struggle academically, but executive functioning skills, behavior, trying to get the right meds for him. So I've also been a parent on the other side, struggling with a student, you know, kid that you don't know what to do with.
I understand. Anyway, I'm happy you're here.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else? All right. With that, I would entertain a motion for approval.
moved.
And support.
And my apologies to Amy. Is it Amy? I didn't read your resolution. So I'm going to read your resolution. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA employment of Amy Fox, speech and language pathologist for Swartz Creek Schools as presented. As you know, we are welcoming you with open arms. Thank you. As well, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA employment of Terry Douglas, special education teacher at Swartz Creek Middle School as presented. With that, if there are no more comments or questions, Sue, will you do roll call, please?
Kim Winter,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Holly Jarvis.
Yes.
Andrea Fick,
Yes.
Jessica Lenné.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion passes. Welcome.
Oh, I welcome, but you're gonna be in the hot seat too when you come in my class.
And last but not least, I'm going to allow you to do the introduction.
Absolutely. I would like to ask our DEEC principal, Mr. Ryan Smith, to come forward, and he can introduce our final candidate, Mr. Ben Kitchen.
Good evening, everybody. I didn't get the memo about the bow tie, so I'm sorry. Our students think that we're brothers or tag team wrestlers quite often at DEEC, so it's with great pleasure and enthusiasm that I present to you for your approval the permanent addition of Mr. Ben Kitchen as a 3rd grade teacher at DEEC Elementary School. He joined our community at the beginning of the year, filling in that position, and has truly exceeded our expectations. Mr. Kitchen has demonstrated an unwavering passion for education and an infectious love for working with children. He is happily known by his colleagues as a happy sponge. You want to talk about an open mindset, Mr. Kitchen has a gigantically huge growth mindset. He's always looking to learn, always looking to better himself, and do what he can for his students. His happy and outgoing personality has made him a beloved figure in our school community already, and he has become a source of inspiration and motivation for creating a ripple effect of positivity that enhances the culture of our school. I wholeheartedly recommend Mr. Kitchen for your approval.
Thank you very much. This will be my second year in public education. I've always considered Swartz Creek to be a home for me. As some of you may know, I've had many endeavors throughout the community and been a part of many things throughout the years, and quite a big part of my life. I've always appreciated Swartz Creek's culture and how focused they are on that and the family-centered piece that they bring to the community. Relationships are huge for me, and it is the core foundation of my educational philosophy, and I look forward to continuing that here at Swartz Creek Schools.
So I think you just answered the question. And we are very happy that you're here.
Thank you.
And so I don't think I have any other questions or comments. Anyone else?
So moved.
Okay, that was good, Chuck.
I said support.
And Andrea supports it.
Move on.
All right. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA employment of Ben Kitchen, third grade teacher at Deke Elementary School as presented. And Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Andrea Fick,
Yes.
Jessica Lenave,
Yes.
Kim Winter,
Yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Holly Jarvis,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Give me a minute. I suppose, yes.
7 yes.
Motion passes. Welcome.
I didn't realize it was your kids at the very end, because I'm like, that's wife and your other son. Congratulations.
Second congratulations.
Chuck, I'm pretty sure if you call a motion, you probably should say yes to your own motion. I mean, just saying.
Well, I moved to do it, I just was, even if I would have said no, it wouldn't have mattered, he knew how I felt. And I didn't even know it was his kid to the very end, I did not know.
And I would be.
Because I saw his other son there, and I'm like, wait a minute, I asked Jessica, is that so-and-so? And she's like, yeah, I think so, and I'm like, okay.
So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Mr. Kitchen.
Yes, congratulations, Jim.
For bringing this fine gentleman into the world and sharing him and his family with our district. And we are very grateful to all of you, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Very well spoken. Usually, I've noticed that when people hire when we hire a family member or a friend or something, they usually do a better job, because if they don't do a very good job, they embarrass I mean, that's the way we got hired back in the 70s. And it was always a matter of pride, and regardless, he's just going to do a wonderful job, I think. So you got all of our support here, so you better do a good job. Don't embarrass him.
It would be hard to embarrass your dad, though, I will say. It'd be very hard.
He's hard to embarrass.
Katrina's sitting back there.
Good luck.
Oh.
Congratulations.
All right, well, thank you. And we are, I think, I'll speak for the board, we are overjoyed that we have folks like yourselves coming here and choosing us. And you bring with you all of the passion and the dedication. And so, sorry, we are appreciative to you. So, thank you. We know there's a lot of other places, but you don't want to go there. We're so glad you're here. And I know how much we need your skill sets. And so I guess we consider ourselves lucky too, because we've been able to attract and retain folks who have a lot of experience. Some are newer to the profession, but the fact that you continue to select it, I think that says a little bit about us as a district and a lot about you as people. So thank you. Whew. Anyway, let's move on.
Should we let them?
Something exciting. Yes.
We let them leave if they want.
Oh, you may leave. Is it now? Okay, that's your choice. We're gonna talk about cameras now.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, good luck.
Good luck.
All right, moving on, we have the approval of camera purchases.
Yes, as Travis presented during Finance and Operation, we do have some grant money. This is out of the 97 safety grant from the state of Michigan. And as you know, we've been afforded the luxury of all these multiple grants over the last few years. So this is for the 48 cameras and the digital video recorder.
Any questions for Rod on that?
I just wondered, are those cameras gonna be divided up between the schools, or where are they gonna be?
Can you repeat that? What was that?
Where will they go?
Mainly at the high school, middle school, and then some elementaries. And then later on this year, we'll have another wave of camera purchases for the rest of the grant money.
Okay.
Yep. So a little bit all over the place. Some at the middle school will then replace the middle school, then the middle school ones will probably go to the elementary. And on the original proposal, we had 2 DVRs at the finance meeting. I did reduce that. We're down to 1, and I'm just going to wait on that until the next phase. So.
Just curious.
Yep.
Okay.
Just if I may piggyback off that, that's why there's the reduction in the 15,000, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right, any other questions? With that, I would entertain a motion for approval. Jack and Chuck and Jack? All right, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the purchase of 48 cameras and a digital video recorder from Presidio Networked Solutions Group LLC to be utilized throughout the district in the amount of $107,249.60 to be funded by the 97 Safety Grant. If there are no comments or questions, I will ask Sue to do roll call, please.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Holly Jarvis.
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica Lene,
Yes.
Kim Winter,
Yes.
Andrea Fick.
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to the approval of the AE contract for the 2024 bond project.
So what you have in front of you here is the architect-engineer contract for French. As you know, service contracts over $29,000 need to come to the board. This service contract would take care of some facilities costs as we look at what has been done, what needs to be done, create lists of projects. It would also cover bond campaigns as we look to run 2024 zero increase because our families' homes have gone up in value so much. There is a gap there, and we could run this bond without any increase to the taxpayers. There's also some planning services, as we've talked about for the last year. You need someone who can put together a bond application that goes to Treasury, goes to the state of Michigan. There's a lot to be filled in. We started with 7 candidates. We then pared down to 3 candidates. All of these candidates brought a great deal of experiences, but I can say unqualified French was the most experienced. They were the largest, and ironically, I guess to my surprise, I didn't expect the most experienced and largest to come in at the cheapest, but of the final 3, they were indeed the cheapest, and so that's pretty exciting. On top of it, this particular contract only affords them up to the $45,000 for the facility study campaigns and planning services. It may be much less than that depending on how much we run our own campaign and how much we use from them. And then obviously the rest of that contract only comes into play if there was a passage of a bond in zero increase in November.
Any questions for Rod?
I have a comment. I'm struggling to say that I can support this because of the campaign cost option. I wouldn't have a problem so much with it if we got rid of that, but it's hard to say that we should approve a campaign for a bond that we haven't even approved yet. I mean, I don't have a problem with the facility study and such, but it's hard to approve $21,000 for a campaign to a bond we haven't even approved.
Well, this is kind of the start of how that goes. They have to start all the paperwork and whatnot, and obviously that wouldn't be cashed in if there was never a piece of work that goes to Lansing to Treasury. You're not gonna run a campaign before something goes to Treasury, right? But if it went to Treasury, it means you did approve it. So this work that you're seeing across there is from now until November.
Of next
right?
year.
But you would have to approve Treasury by like May. So it is the right order. This is how it's laid out. This is the way it went, with the last engineering and architect group back in 18. You have a contract, they do a bunch of work, they get the rest of the contract if the bond passes.
How much is the rest of the contract, Rod?
It's 6 to 6.25%. The range of the groups we looked at were 6 to 8.5%.
How much is the total dollars for the bond project? So we don't know that yet, so the facility study's done, right?
Yeah, you won't know completely. We've had as low as 30 million and as high as 40. So
How much does that bond anticipate to generate if it's a no increase bond?
30 to 40 million, if it's a zero
And
increase.
if we used all that, 6% would be 1.8 million for it, at the low end.
Yes. I mean, assuming your math is correct, because I didn't.
Well, 30 million, 6% is 1.8 million. No, yeah, it's 1.8 million. Yeah. I'm right.
Sounds about right.
I got a high school education.
I think it was from
I wasn't saying you're wrong, I just didn't calculate it in my head.
I didn't calculate it either just now. I'm just calculating numbers now. I want to know what I'm spending on somebody.
It's pretty close.
I mean, if it's 40 million, it's 2.4 million, right?
Yeah.
I own a small business also, so you got to know that, because I'm the one paying the taxes. I mean, I don't know. I'm mixed about things, taxes, I don't know.
So can I just make a comment? Having been here in preparation of the last bond, the team here can't do this. They can't. They can't do this. We need partners to help us do this process. And it comes at a cost, but they have experience, and if you've had a chance to look through the packet and see all of the schools that they've worked with successfully and have ongoing and/or completed projects, the school administrators are focused on, the day-to-day and the education of our students and the retention of our teams, in addition to many other things. But to pay this, I'm just speaking from the previous experience, because I was wondering too, it had been 50 years since we passed a bond in the community, why do we need to do something like this? But it proved very valuable, couldn't have done it without it, and was obviously successful. I don't think that means that we just give it to them and they do it all. Obviously, there's a component of the district that has to be part of, right, the campaign and the promotion and everything, but these folks are very, and I'm not speaking about anybody in particular, but the folks that do this work are very experienced in doing this and know what works and what doesn't work, and they know the process and the timelines that we have to be in order to try to be successful. So I'll stop.
And we're still very heavily involved, like we will work very closely, Jamie out of finance, RC out of operations, myself and Jim. I mean, there are districts that will hire a third company at 2 to 3% just to work as the owner, to be the person that communicates to the architect and the engineer, and then be the person that communicates over to the construction manager. I'm not asking, it would be great so that I could concentrate just on educating people, but I'm not asking for that third company that a lot of people do to be the owner. I am the owner. I will be the one that works with these groups, but this is your basic bid package from an architect. Like I said, these were 7 similar packages. There's no major differences here. This was the cheapest and the most experienced.
And we want Rod and team to do what they're supposed to be doing, but I left that part out. Yes, Rod will have involvement in this, but you want to make sure that there are people who are experienced who can carry out these services in the timeline required and not miss anything, and you have to go back to the drawing board. So that's my comments, just based on our previous experience.
Yeah, and if I misunderstood, we've been talking about this for a year. If we don't want to run a 22, 24 zero increase bond, that would be a different subject. We've talked about it. We talked about getting through the operational one first. We spent the last month and a half interviewing these people. I've updated you in my regular memo. But if I misunderstood and we don't want to go out for a bond, then obviously we wouldn't vote for this. But if we're going to do that process, this is the process, and this is how you do it, and we need to move forward. So it's really a question of, are we going to do that 2024 zero increase? Because if we're not, that's a different question. I assumed based on the year's worth of conversation that we were, and this is how you move forward.
Go ahead, Amy.
So Chuck, you made a comment about being a business owner and paying the taxes, but it's a zero increase, right? Can you explain how that works? So
Yeah, I
don't
sure can.
understand.
I sure can, 'cause I just
I
got my taxes. When you're ready, I'll
I want
answer.
Rod to explain to the public of what that means, because you're paying taxes regardless, and if it's a zero increase.
That's not true.
How does that,
So
That's
in
not
the-
true.
that's why I want Rod to explain
In the
it.
2018 bond passage, it was passed at 3.9 mils, and it was set out for a set number of years. Now, I'm going to guesstimate, right? I don't know the exact. I think it was 28, right? So you got 3.9 mils spread out over 20 years. Now, when you go out for the millage, you got the 48 million. But because of the taxable value of the homes have increased, that 3.9%, or that 3.9 mil is now generating way more than what it was expected to generate. So you got this tax going across for 28 years at 3.9 mils. It's now generating way more. So if you don't touch it, we can take out of that very same tax another 35 million, so the day-to-day tax doesn't go up. Now, in order to do that, I think it does go out another 6 years. But so it would start over from now, stay at the same level. There's no increase on the yearly tax bill, but it would go out, say, 6 more. And so now between the two, it goes out 28 plus 6 is 34. But we've already gone through 5 years. So you would have 29-ish years left. But the tax bill wouldn't increase. It's a zero increase on the mills. It stays at 3.9. Now, if your house value went up, obviously, that would go up, because those are the two key indicators on how your taxes are calculated. You have a value and you have a millage. The millage is not changed. That's what it means by a zero mill increase. It does lengthen it, but the mill is not increased at all. Your tax could go up if your value goes up, but that would happen no matter what the situation.
So it's gonna go up regardless. So what happens to that money if we don't opt to put it in our schools? Then what happens? Anybody?
It goes back to
To-
the taxpayer.
Yeah, if you don't renew a millage, then that 3.9 mils, the taxpayer doesn't have to pay it. We're paying a 6 mil special millage, we're paying a 3.9 on this millage, we're paying a building and sinking fund, and then, of course, the 18 mils, if you're homestead exempt. So you can't say, oh, it's not increasing taxes. It's not, if we don't renew a millage, then the taxpayer gets a bonus in his pay. He gets more take-home money.
So yeah,
I don't know how you could say it's not an increase, but it's something that was increased years ago that you're gonna renew now.
right, so it's not an increase. But it would be a decrease if it didn't go through.
I can't believe a homeowner wouldn't want $400 or $500 back in his pocket in this district.
And
you know what? If we're gonna talk about that, we haven't even identified what needs to be done. We're hiring a company to come in and identify what needs to be done to our district. And that company says, oh, you need this, 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 and this at $29.9 million. That happens to be your renewable bond. I've asked for us to have several meetings here to identify what we need done here so we can make that decision.
That's planned out. That's part of the process.
That's for them to do.
In conjunction with us.
But we needed to do that first before they do it.
They have the expertise that go in. When you look at that bond project, that was a 1,000-page facility study. You and I, in a 3-hour board workshop, are going to create materials of the plugs and the lights and the door hinges
and all of that stuff. You're not gonna have, there's no one in this district that's gonna create a 1,000-page facility study. They will bring it to us. You walk into my office, you can see it on the whiteboard, board workshop to go over facilities list. It's listed in there right now.
And if we don't pass the bond, then where are we gonna get this 41,000 from? Is this coming out of our general budget? The one that we're gonna pay him now for the
If it didn't
facility?
pass, yes.
Do we have the $41,000 to pay for it?
Yes.
Okay. I can go along with that. To do a facility study and have a professional company come in and tell us what we may or we may not need.
Yeah, it's Chuck, and I understand your concern, but.
Salesmen are gonna come in and sell us the kitchen sink. If I tell somebody to come in, I want this fixed in my business, he's gonna sell me a lot of stuff I don't need.
But we're the ones who ultimately say this
I
is
know
what
that.
we need as a district and where we
And
want
we're
to
supposed to make
focus our
educated
dollars.
decisions for our taxpayers.
Absolutely, because if you did a facility study, you would have 200-300 million in needs. So they're not gonna sell us anything. We're gonna pick the best 40 million. I mean, there's so much money that could be spent on upgrades. When that facility study comes back, our job is to pare it down to that 40 million that we want to accomplish. That's our role.
We just spent 49 million less than 5 years ago over the course of just this last 5 years.
Right, and so all of the good districts like Fenton, they're on their 3rd or 4th renewal, Grand Blanc's on their 3rd or 4th renewal. Unfortunately, the way school finance works in the state of Michigan is that in order to do building and operations, you got to go out and ask a millage. Now, there is a couple of bills that have been introduced. They're not moving very fast, and they've talked about could we in Michigan fund schools differently so that infrastructure could be paid through, like, say, the similarly to the way a student FTE works. So right now you get $9,600 for general operations. Could you then get $2,000 per student for facilities upgrades? There's talk about that, but they're nowhere near that. So what most districts do is they pass an original, and then they use that equity to do a non-increase to keep it going every 5 or 6 years so that they can continue to make their districts great. Fenton just passed a zero increase at 62% of the voters for 120 million, and Novi is going out for a zero increase for 220 million. Our zero increase, we'll be lucky to get 35 million. And so it's just a matter if we want to be on that continual cycle of being able to do more roofs, more parking lots, and more of the structures that need to continue to be done.
Thank you, Rod.
Can I reiterate again? I don't have a problem with the facility study. I don't have any problem with that at all, and I think that's a good idea. My main concern here is the cost of the bond campaign. Again, can you please just explain it to me again? Why are we approving a campaign right now?
Because this 3 white boxes before the blue box is everything they would do from now until November. And those first 2 things, or the first thing and the other thing would be done before May. The campaign really would be done over here in September, October, but the entire white is from now into November of 2024. And when you're talking 20,000, you're talking about placards that go up in every building so you can see what that work looks like. You're talking about mail homes. So when you get a 9x11 or a 5x6 that talks about what's happening with your tax money and what it looks like in the schools, we're talking about pamphlets and trifolds. And not only that, but then also the lists of who are the people who supported last time. I mean, it's a huge company. They can identify literally the parents that supported the last bond and reach out to them. There's a very minimal cost when you think about all that work that has to be done. And if we're moving forward with it, it does have to be done. It's not done first, it's actually done third. First you do the study, and then you do the planning and go to the state of Michigan and apply at Treasury. And then it gets on the ballot, and then you run the campaign. But all of that gets done before we get to the bond. You won't know about the rest of it unless the bond passed, but you can't wait because you can't run a campaign after the vote. You got to run the campaign before the vote.
He wants to put the vote, when do you want to put the vote on? November of next year?
November of 20.
So it's time sensitive, for a lack of better terms.
Right.
I think that's your issue. Yeah, that's why he wants to do it now. I don't know.
It's just hard for me to approve a campaign of something that we don't know. We don't necessarily even know what the bond's gonna have in it yet. You know what I mean? I have a.
Right, but regardless of what's in it, it's gonna need a campaign.
I understand. I would rather wait if we could, but I understand it is time sensitive.
And that's if the board decides to put it on, right? Rod, the board has to approve to
Well, we'll come back with all the proposals after we have those meetings that you talked about where we decide what we think is important. We'll come back with a language to take to Lansing.
If we don't approve it, Rod, how long is this current millage good for? To what year? 2030?
We were, what did I say, 26 from 18? So, right, it hit the books at 19.
It'd be 45.
Yeah. So you're talking about the difference between the same tax you have now and 45, and instead of 45, it goes to 50 at the same rate for another 40 million. That's essentially what the difference is when you're talking about the taxpayer. This one will stretch till 45 if we approve a no increase. Now it stretches another 5 or 6 years to 50, but we're getting 40 million out of it.
All right.
More importantly, or I guess, I think it's important to clarify, and I know it's implied, that it's not just money that we're getting out of it. It's the continued improvement to our district, whether, again, it's technology, whether or not it's facilities and security. Our district went a very long time without having improvements done. And just like with a home, in part, like, right, you go a long time without making improvements, it ends up making all the costs that much more costly. It's a matter of giving us those funds to do. There are certain things that we can and cannot do, and it allows us to extend out. I guess I think of it as helping us to be adaptive and flexible and innovative in what we're able to do to bring about the best education that we can for the kids in our district.
And the feedback
So that
kids
it's
coming
not
to
just-
Creek is that.
And so sometimes, like when we talk about it and we talk about it in money, right, that it's 45 million or 30 million and what the years are, like my kids will be out of school by that point. Yeah, I want to be able to have a district and facilities that if my great-grandkids are coming here, or whomever it is, even if they're not in my family, what kind of district are they coming into? And that is in part what we need to think about, what this money is doing. It's not just money, it's an investment. And it's a whole lot easier to keep that momentum than trying to get it going again, and we all know that by the last bond.
100%. And this is not this is an investment in your schools, which in turn is an investment in your house. People did not want to move to Swartz Creek 8 years ago. They did not. They would flat out tell me, I will go to Fenton, I'll go to Flushing, because we were just in turmoil. Our schools were amok. I talked to a parent last night. He's got a high schooler. I met him for the first time, and he's like, I wish I was in high school again for that athletic field. He's like, it's impressive. I would want to come there. And so we had this whole conversation about things not being up to date before now. But he's got a kid here now, and he loves it. And he worked hard to get his kid into this district, you know, from where he grew up and where he went to school. And he was just raving about all these things. And I see it from a different aspect, right? I see that people didn't want to come to our district 8 years ago because they didn't like our facilities, didn't like our schools. It has driven people to want to buy houses in Swartz Creek. My parents weren't for the last bond. Their kids were already through school. And we really had to educate them on the fact it doesn't matter, but you want to be able to sell your house someday? Because no one wants to come here and buy houses when the schools aren't up to date. My grandfather was on the board when the high school was built, and we hadn't updated things in years. He had great-grandchildren graduating from here, and they were still using some of the same equipment and desk and whatever. I'm not the same that he would use, but, you know what I mean, we haven't done updates in that long, right? You know what I mean, we hadn't passed a bond in my entire lifetime when we passed this last one. So it is important. It's important if you live here, which we all do, because we're on the board, it affects your home. It does, 100%, not just our schools. It will affect your home value. So Jessica, to your point, your daughter won't be in school in another year, but you might want to sell your house someday.
That's a great comment, Andrew. I like that, because that can help me justify it because I'm always on the other side. That's why we have different board members on here to bring up different points of view. And you're right. I think if
Open-mindedness.
you have a great school district, I think you can sell your house easier. It makes your house worth more because people come to a good school district.
People search to buy a home on price, school district, and how many bedrooms and bathrooms.
So moved.
So, thank you, Chuck. I will take that in a motion. I will.
See how easy, I get all pissy, but you see, I get all crankety, but, you know what I mean?
So I want to build on that, Chuck. I heard a motion, and I heard a second from Andrea. Any comments or questions,
Because this is a
Jessica?
facility study. We're not gonna vote on any increase in taxes yet, till we see what our facility studies, basically, discussion on the motion, Carrie. Just
Right.
to see what it is. So
Okay.
that brings up legitimate points for my fellow board members.
And so Jessica had some comments.
There are a couple things that, again, to Rod's point, we need all of this, and it will be our responsibility as a board and with the administration, right, to set that vision about where we go, how we are spending that money. That's our vision. But I can tell you, I know something about my personality, that I can't see an open space necessarily and see what could go there. But if you give me a space, I will fill it in a great way, right? Like, I will maximize the space that you give. And I think of French or whomever it would be, and even to help us to identify, to see a vision that maybe we can't see because they have that experience. They've worked with so many other districts. They know some of the things that we might think of, and they go, oh, yeah, that's a really great idea. And maybe we further that even farther than what it's been, or they go, oh, man, there was a district that tried that, and you might want to think of this. Because we don't know what we don't know, right? And here are the experts that have that. And I think it's worthwhile to do that. The last thing that I'll say, and I'd mentioned this to Rod previously, I think it's important as we continue on with this conversation that we continually educate the public about the difference in what we're talking about with this and the millage that we just passed. So whether or not it's now or later, to continue that so people understand what one may fund, what the other doesn't, and why it is that we are asking, so they don't go, well, I just passed something in November, you're asking me to pass something this November, to really clarify what the difference is. That's all I will say.
And those are all great points, Jessica, and I absolutely agree with you that not everybody, I mean, people here, we're asking questions, right? But not everyone understands the differences. And I think it's incumbent on us and Rod and Jim and others to help us explain to the community what this is all about. Anyone else before we move forward? All right, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the proposal submitted by French and Associates, Inc. for professional services not to exceed $40,050 to be funded out of future bond issuance costs or public improvement funds as presented. I'm sorry, $45,020, and I am the one who actually asked for that correction earlier. It's been a long day. So it should be $45,020 as a correction. Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Andrea Fick,
Yes.
Jessica LaNave,
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Kim Winter,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Holly Jarvis.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion passes. Thanks to all of my fellow board members. These are hard conversations to have, but this is a great conversation, and I look forward to the possibilities. I think in 2018, the Swartz Creek community gave itself a gift that it didn't even know it wanted or needed, and it's time to put another bow on that package. So let's move on. Thanks for that great discussion. Public comments, anyone who wants to address the board, please come forward, state your name, and 3 minutes or less. I think okay. All right, comments or questions from the board? I will start with thanking the Madrigals for coming here. They were very entertaining. Thanks for their time last week and this evening. I was hoping they were going to come tonight, and when I was chatting with them last Thursday, and they said, don't tell anybody, but I think we're going to be at your meeting next week. So I tried not to tell anybody, but they were great, and thank you, Mr. Bishop. And once again, next Thursday night at 7 o'clock, they have a concert, and the band is at the Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Mr. Delgado, he's no longer here. Thank you so much, Tony, for all you do for our students, and the very strategic and calm way that you make sure that they get food, healthy food. Anybody else have any comments?
I just want to welcome our new teachers. The two, the two special ed ladies, they were really, I mean, the one was extremely passionate, and you could just see it in her expressions, and the other one was very kind and warm and friendly, and of course we have DJ Benjamin, one of the best DJs this side of the equator, coming in to teach third grade. So I mean, I just want to welcome all of our new teachers. It's great to have teachers coming into Swartz Creek. Not every school district can say that they have teachers coming into them right now. So I just wanted to thank them for coming and thank them for being here.
Thank you for helping the Swartz Creek family grow again.
I just wanted to piggyback on Jack. I also think not that any of them are any less, but I think it speaks volumes for someone to come out of retirement to come back into teaching middle school. So just because they saw our name on the paper. So I think that's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, anyone else, anything else? With that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Any comments or questions? If not, those in favor say aye.